Okay, so we're recording now, so Teams always tells me when I start the recording that I should let you guys know that you are being recorded. So if you come to class and you participate during the lecture, you are technically being recorded, and I will post the recording of the lecture to the academic YouTube channel. So if you don't like having your face on YouTube or your voice on YouTube, then you may want to stay after class and wait for the recording to end to ask your questions. Most students don't find that to be an issue and just participate as normal, but to each their own. Okay, so let me I guess I'll introduce myself before I pull up the syllabus really quickly. So I'm Thomas Homery. I'm a second-year graduate student here at the University of South Carolina. So that means that I am kind of grinding out the first couple years of my PhD, and after this year, I'll have 3 more years to go before I can graduate with that PhD. So as such, I don't have my doctorate yet. You certainly don't need to call me Dr. Homery or Professor Homery or any of that. You can just call me Tom, or Thomas is fine too. And yeah, let's see, I did my undergrad at Purdue University. I'm from Indiana initially. And yeah, I spend most of my time either doing math or teaching math. So that's kind of a little bit about me. And I'll go ahead and share the syllabus now so we can go through that. Okay, sweet. So you should be able to see the iPad screen now. And get the syllabus up. Okay, so should be able to see the syllabus now. We'll start and we'll just go through kind of piece by piece. I started the recording, so I can close that. Out of there. Okay, so pre-calculus mathematics, the class is going to be focused on principles that are going to prepare you for 141 and 142 ideally, or any other calculus course. There might be a few people in here who are going to feed into 122. Don't worry, this class is also for you. Let's see, class meeting times. Okay, so this is the first kind of important thing. On Monday and Wednesday, we meet from 8:30 to 9:20, and on Tuesday and Thursday, it's different. We go from 8:30 to 9:45. So power hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays, regular hour on Mondays and Wednesdays, and no class on Friday. Yeah, a couple students emailed me saying that was unusual. I agree. I usually don't teach this many days per week, but I guess this is how this particular section of the class is being run. So that's what we're going to do. My office hours are going to be right after class on Mondays and Wednesdays. Okay, so I'll stay for 1 hour after class on Mondays and 2 hours after class on Wednesdays, or by appointment. Okay, so if you have another class to get to right after this one, or you have some other obligation and you can't stay after class for office hours, don't worry, you can just email me and set up a time where we'll just meet individually. You'll say, hey, I can't come to office hours, can we meet at 3 p.m. on Friday? And then I'll say, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And we'll just meet in the usual Teams room. Okay, so if you can't make it to office hours, you can just send me an email and set up an appointment. Okay, so we have a supplemental instructor for this class. His name is Jamie Gay, and his email is listed here as jkgay@email.sc.edu. Let's see, is Jamie here? How do I see participants? It doesn't look like Jamie's here yet, so we'll hold off on the meeting hours for now. But essentially, the SI's job is to hold additional office hours. They might go through something if it was particularly confusing in class. So they're not quite a TA, but they're here to help you, and they lead study sessions and that sort of thing. Okay. So prerequisites for the class should be either Math 111 or the placement test. I am guessing that most of you have taken the placement test to get into here, but I could be wrong. And let's see, learning outcomes. Okay, so we want to increase our skills with algebra and trig. We want to make better mistakes if we're going to make mistakes. Okay, work with mathematical terms such as linear, quadratic, exponential, logarithmic, inverse, polynomial, rational, circular, blah, blah, blah. All of these different mathematical terms, we want to know how to use the terminology and what the definitions are. We want to apply algebra to solve intercepts, rates of change, inequalities, systems of equations, rational functions, and interest growth. These are all topics which are kind of leading into the sorts of topics that we're going to deal with in calculus. Develop various properties graphically and formulaically, domain, range, inverse function, unit circle, Pythagorean identities, reciprocals, half angle, double angle, and transformations. And this is just kind of like a lot of word vomit for saying we're going to learn topics which introduce us to the concepts which are important in calculus. And students will tackle problems that take more than one step to solve. That's great. Okay, so required materials. This part's important. For this class, we have a textbook. It is Pre-Calculus, a Unit Circle, 3rd edition, the Pearson version. And I'm not requiring a hard copy of the textbook for the class, okay? So if you already have one, then that's fine and great, and I'm sure that you will get use out of it. If you don't have one, then you don't need to buy one per se. What you will need is access to the online homework through MyMathLab. Okay, so it's kind of like a WebAssign or a Wiley Plus or whatever, any of those other online homeworks that you've done. Once the course is up and running on the MathLab page, I should be able to give you a course ID, and you all should be able to register and pay them directly, and you don't need to purchase the textbook to get the MyMathLab access. So I want to say it's like $99, or that's what it's been in the past. I don't know if it's changed. But that will be how you complete your homework. And I believe if you buy the MyMathLab access, you automatically get access to an ebook. Okay, so a PDF of the textbook. So you can flip through the practice problems and notes and stuff on your computer. Are there any questions right now about the textbook and MyMathLab? And again, if you have any questions at all at any time, you can either unmute yourself and interrupt me, or you can type in the chat. Okay, so the MyMathLab portion of the class is still sort of being set up right now. Pearson is giving me a really hard time with setting up the course on their system. So that's still kind of in limbo for now. What that means for you all is just no homework for now. But there wasn't going to be any homework right now anyways. I'll probably assign the first homework at the end of this week, and it'll be due the following week. Okay, so don't worry too much about that. I will send an email about MyMathLab once I have more information. And no calculators are going to be allowed, okay? So whenever you're taking an exam, don't use a calculator. Okay, so this course is going to be given in an online format. Lectures are going to be given through this application, Microsoft Teams. So if you're here, good job, you figured out how to do it. And I'm going to post the recordings of these lectures to YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel. The link is on the Blackboard page, and you can get to that. And after every lecture, probably about an hour later, I will have it posted up onto the YouTube channel. So if you're not a morning person and you don't want to get up at 8:30 and do math, then you don't need to. You can just watch. Okay, good. Later tonight. You can just watch the recording on YouTube instead, and you can do that at any time. What you do lose if you just watch the recording is you're not able to interact with the instructor, i.e. me, in real time, which for some people is a problem and some people is not a problem. So we can make this class asynchronous. Essentially, that is what I'm saying, yes. Well, I'll get to that in a second when I talk about attendance. But yes, I do not require you to attend the Microsoft Teams meeting synchronously. I will always offer the Microsoft Teams lecture synchronously. Okay, so every day or Monday through Thursday at 8:30, I'll be here and I will give a lecture synchronously so that if anybody wants to attend and ask questions in real time and participate in this class as if it was an in-person class, they can do that. However, if you don't want to attend the lecture synchronously, I'm not going to penalize you, and I will post the recordings to YouTube for you to watch. But I'm not saying that this class is asynchronous. This is a synchronous class, but you can choose to participate asynchronously. And that's what I'll say. Okay, one other thing. So if we're having class on the Microsoft Teams and you want to interrupt me, you can use the raise hand button. I think it's somewhere, let's see, I can point to it. It's somewhere like up in this top corner here. So why don't we have everybody try that out really quickly, because that's going to be the best way for you guys to get my attention. So try raising your hands here. Great, look at all those hands. Okay, great. I wish it would make a sound when you raise your hand. Maybe I can find that setting somewhere. Okay, great. So that's how you can raise your hand, and hopefully I'll figure out how to make raising your hand give me an audio cue so that I see what pops up in the chat. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, so, and really anytime during any lecture, I really do welcome interruptions for clarification if I've, explained something poorly, or if you're just still confused on something that's going on, please do interrupt me. You can raise your hand or you can type in the chat, and we'll stop and go over whatever it is that you are having trouble with. Okay. So communication, the best way to communicate with me is via email. I respond pretty fast usually. If I haven't responded in 24 hours, you should probably send me another email because it might have fallen out of my inbox somehow. And I'm also available to meet students virtually by appointment for discussion. So if you want to have a, real conversation with me, then we can set up a time to meet in the Teams room individually, kind of like office hours. Or you can come to office hours and we can talk during that time. Oh yeah, one thing that I will write here, If a student has an administrative question, I humbly ask that they check the syllabus before sending an email to me. I've designed this syllabus to have pretty much all the information that you could ever possibly need about the class in it. So please do check the syllabus before emailing me about something like, how is my grade computed? Because I got a lot of emails last semester about that sort of thing, and it's a little bit, yeah. Okay. So this is what I was talking about before, attendance. Students are expected to view and listen to the entirety of each lecture, either synchronously via Microsoft Teams or asynchronously via the recordings posted to YouTube. So viewership will be measured via the completion of an exit slip on Blackboard, which should be submitted within 1 week of the lecture. So what I'm going to do is I will lecture, and then as soon as I'm done with the lecture, I will post to Blackboard an assignment, which will have a couple of questions on it, like, what did we learn today? What was the hardest part of the material for you today? What was the easiest part of the material for you today? Do you have any questions about any of the things that we learned today, and things like that? And you'll type out all of your responses to it, and then you'll click send, and that will be how I measure whether or not you have viewed a lecture. Okay, so you do need to view the lecture before you complete the exit slip, and the exit slip is due 1 week following the lecture. So if you are going to view the lectures asynchronously, you do need to make sure that you're still keeping up with the class within a 1 week timeline, because otherwise you won't be able to do your exit slips. Okay, so participation. Research indicates voluntary class participation correlates strongly with student learning. That's definitely been true in my classroom. The students who participate regularly in class almost always get better grades. People who attend office hours regularly always get better grades. So participation is important for a lot of students. Some students may be able to get by without it. I may occasionally solicit responses from you during class in order to, will there be an exit slip for today's class? Yes, there is an exit slip for today's class. I'll show you how to get there at the end of class. Okay, so participation is good. Video feed is optional for students, but I encourage you to turn it on if you're going to communicate with me directly or communicate with the class directly. But you certainly don't need to. I think most students prefer to keep it off, so that's perfectly fine. Okay, are there any questions so far about, let's see, we did the online procedure, communication, attendance, and participation. I see there's one hand up, I think. Abdul Rahman. Oh. Not sure if you have a question or you're still up from before. Okay, then we'll move on. All right, so the next section is on academic integrity. I take academic integrity really seriously for my classes. If, heaven forbid, there's ever evidence of an academic integrity violation, I will gather that evidence and I will submit it in a Maxient report to the Office of Student Conduct and Academic Integrity. So basically, I don't determine whether or not anyone has committed academic integrity. I just gather the evidence and I send it off to the office, and they perform their investigation, and then they say either this person was academically dishonest or not. And then after that, there will be a disciplinary action, which is kind of in proportion to the severity of the offense. So academic integrity violations include communicating with other people during the exam when you're not supposed to do that, or using outside resources for the exam when you're not supposed to do that, such as posting the entire exam to Chegg. I had one student do that last semester. Or such as copying the entire exam of another student. That also happened last semester. You know, I don't get any kind of pleasure out of like doing the academic integrity thing. It's really painful for me and it's painful for the students. And so it's really best if we can just avoid it entirely. Please be honest and please familiarize yourself and behave according to our code of conduct and our honor code and the Carolinian Creed. Okay, so that's all I have to say about that. Okay. Students with disabilities. So if you have a disability and you need additional accommodations, you need to register with the SDRC. Once you've registered with the SDRC, you need to make an appointment with me and we will talk over how I can best implement those accommodations. Thankfully, YouTube has auto captioning. So if you're having trouble hearing me, the YouTube lectures have captioning, which goes up usually within an hour of me posting the video. So you can have subtitles for that, which is pretty nice. Studying. So this class meets 4 times a week for 5 hours. It's suggested that the students study at least 2 hours out of class for every hour within class. For a lot of students, that'll be overkill. For some students, it'll be very necessary. Just make sure that you're keeping an eye on how much you're studying, and if you feel like you're falling behind, you might want to increase it. Makeup policy. Okay, so for assignments and exams, there will be no makeup assessments of any kind except in the case of an excused absence. I will give special consideration in the event of COVID-related absences. So for example, if you were exposed at work and suddenly you have to quarantine and you have to drive across the state or something like that, I'll make an exception to the makeup policy for that purpose. Or if you test positive for COVID or something like that. I don't want anybody to worry about making up work when something goes crazy because of COVID. I'll work with you on that. So in the event of either that or an excused absence, I'll typically give 48 hours additional to the deadline for students to make up the assignment. Okay. So COVID and mental health, obviously last semester and this semester, or well, last semester was extremely stressful, and I expect this semester is going to continue to be stressful because of all of this. Online class is not as easy as in-person class, and well, there's a major worldwide pandemic going on. So seriously, please do take care of your mental health. Your mental health is really important to me as the instructor. I really, really don't want our class to become a major source of pain and anxiety and depression for you. So if that's happening, please do talk to me. You can come and see me during office hours where you can make an appointment and I'll talk with you and we can sort something out. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to me, then that's okay. But I would really recommend that you talk to the really, really kind people over at Counseling and Psychiatry. They offer U of SC students, I think, 10 free counseling sessions per academic year. So I've personally made use of that service, and I can tell you that it's really, really, really helpful. I think they're doing like remote counseling for this semester still, but that's a thing, and it's a really useful resource, and you should make use of it. Okay, so here's my statement of inclusivity. I included this. Let's see, we refuse to compromise the ideals of academic freedom and open exchange. We affirm that scientific events have to be open to everybody, regardless of class, financial situation, race, sex, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, age, pregnancy, immigration status, academic affiliation, or any other aspect of identity. Okay, so essentially, our class is an open and a safe environment for people of all different backgrounds. So one thing that I want to be mindful of while I'm teaching is I want to make sure that our classroom environment is suitable for everybody that's involved, regardless of your background, be it your math background or just the way that you grew up or who you are. So, my own background and my academic experiences are definitely going to influence the way that I teach. And so if that doesn't jive with you, then please do either let me know directly. You can let me know during class or during office hours or during an appointment or via the anonymous feedback Google form, which is posted to the Blackboard page. So if you have feedback on how the class is being run, at any time you can go to the Blackboard page, you can click the link for anonymous feedback, you can tell me all about what's going right or wrong, and then post that, and I won't see your email or anything, I'll just see the text that you put on there, and that will really help me to improve the class for everybody. Okay, maybe I'll pause for questions again. Does anybody have a question on any of the stuff that we have talked about so far? Okay, if there's no questions, then we'll move on and talk about assignments. Okay, so there's basically going to be 3 types of assignments. That's exit slips, homework, and exams. Okay, so exit slips, after each lecture, you'll have an exit slip. It'll have a couple of questions on it, and you need to complete it within 1 week of the lecture. So for example, for today's lecture, the exit slip will be due on Monday, January 18th at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so I give you a little bit more than exactly 1 week. Yeah, so that's that. Homework. The homework is really designed to help you learn the material. So it's not to measure whether or not you learned everything in the lecture, it's to help you practice. And practicing is the main way that you learn math. It's the main way that you learn almost any skill. If I was, wanted to be a great tennis player, it's not enough for me to just go out and watch Roger Federer play. I mean, that's great and all. I might learn some things, but I need to actually go out there and hit some balls and, play some tennis myself if I actually want to learn how to be a great tennis player. And it's the same thing with math. So it's designed to help you practice. And yeah, so it'll be assigned on my math lab and graded for accuracy. Typically at the end of the week, I will assign homework for the previous week, and it will be due 1 week from then. So for this week, I might assign a homework assignment on Friday covering whatever we learn on Monday through Thursday, and it'll be due on the following Friday, typically at 11:59 p.m. Okay, a couple questions on the homework. Let's read those out. Will there be 4 exit slips a week for each day of class, or just 1 a week? There will be 4 per week, 1 for each lecture of the week. Thank you, Mitchell, for that question. Will the homework have multiple attempts per question or 1 attempt? Very good question, Savannah. So there will be multiple attempts. Last semester, I started out with 3 attempts per question, and then I upped it to 5. I think I'll start this semester at 5 attempts. And if people are really up in arms about it, then I'll increase the number of attempts as long as that's available to me on my math lab. But I don't like unlimited attempts because it tends to encourage students to try every guess that they can think of. Like people really like to start out with, okay, 0. Is 0 the answer? No. Move on to the next thing. And that doesn't encourage good homework practice, in my opinion. So I like to limit the number of attempts somewhat, but I'm flexible on how many. Okay, so that's homework. Then we have exams. There's going to be 3 exams throughout the semester, excluding the final. And before each exam, we'll have a review day, and students will be provided with a practice exam. Exams will be take home, and students will have 12 hours to complete the exam. So on an exam day, we won't have class. I will post the exam, and it will go live onto the Blackboard at like 8:55 a.m. And you'll have from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. to complete the exam. So that's one big difference between the homeworks and the exit slips and the exams. The exams are going to be due at 9 p.m., okay, not at 11:59 p.m. like usual, okay? So you have 12 hours to do the exams. So typically I'll give the exams, they'll be open book, open note, but not open internet and no cooperation between students or any other person for that matter. Okay, so that's how the exams are going to work. The final exam will be cumulative, same style, it'll be take home. And this date is wrong, I need to change this. It's correct on the schedule below. Okay. In terms of extra credit, I will drop your lowest homework score, and I will drop 2 exit slips from your grade. So if you have 1 week where you forgot to do the homework or something, don't worry about it. It's going to get dropped. And if you forget to do a couple exit slips, that's okay. You can miss 2 without incurring any penalty. Okay. So the way that your grade is going to be calculated is according to the following scale. Homework's going to be worth 20%. Exit slips will be worth 7%. The exams are pretty heavily weighted at 16% each, and then the final is 25%. Okay, so like most of your grade is going to come from these exams, so it is important that you take them seriously. Make sure you study before you have the exams, because those are going to make up the bulk of your grade. And I'll assign grades on the usual scale. You'll get an A if you get above a 90, B if you're above an 80, C if you're above a 70, and so on and so forth. So this is always going to be here on the syllabus for your reference if you want to figure out how to calculate your grade. Speaking of calculating your grade, I'm going to upload your raw scores to Blackboard. So I might grade your homework out of 100 and your exams out of 100. So your Blackboard grade is going to be sort of out of whack. Okay, it's not going to be representative of your actual grade. If you want to compute your actual grade sometime during the semester, you're going to have to be a little bit careful because some of the exams won't have come through yet. And so you'll have to sort of adapt this weighted scale to just all of the stuff that we've done so far. And I can help you do that during office hours, or you can try out these websites that I posted down here. You can click on those and they send you to various websites where you can like calculate your weighted grade partway through the semester. Here's a bunch of useful websites. We got Blackboard, Wolfram Alpha, and this is the link to the YouTube channel. So you can always find that on the syllabus. It's also on the Blackboard page. Support, my office hours. The Math Tutoring Center has a virtual one-on-one free tutoring with other graduate students like me. So other graduate students are just in the Math Tutoring Center from 10 to 3. And anytime that you want to get help, you can just log on and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this homework problem. Can you help me figure out how to do it? And some nice, smart graduate student will help you figure out how to do that problem. So that's perfectly free, and it's a great resource, and really very few people use it, and more people should use it. So I highly recommend the Math Tutoring Center. The Student Success Center offers free tutoring and free one-on-one online tutoring, etc. They can also help you develop like good study habits and organizational skills and that sort of thing. So they're really helpful as well. And here's a bunch of study tips. I'm not going to read through them all. I posted this on here because I often get emails from students either partway through the semester or maybe like the day before the final asking what they can do to improve their grade. And these are the things that I tend to put in my emails. There's a lot of stuff here. You definitely don't need to do all of these things, although all of these things will help you. The main one that I want to highlight is please come to office hours. Coming to office hours is definitely the best bang for your buck in terms of improving, because you're going to be with me. I'm going to be able to identify your weaknesses and work with you and help you get the right intuitions without having to, go out and search online and figure out like what you're supposed to be doing. So that's really, really helpful. Also the Math Tutoring Center is really useful. And the other thing that I want to highlight is if you fall behind, please get help early. Okay. Getting help early is really, really important so that you can get back on track. All of the concepts in this class are going to build on one another. So please make sure that you get help early if you start falling behind. Okay. Couple important dates. Last day to drop without a grade of a W is going to be January 19th, 2021. So that's next Tuesday. So you need to basically decide whether you want to stay in the class or not by then. So you'll have basically this week and next Monday of class to decide whether or not you like being in the class. And then the last day to drop without a WF is going to be March 27th. So like halfway through the semester or something like that. So if by then you realize, oh crap, I'm in way over my head, you may want to think about withdrawing, but you can always ask me, and I'll be honest with you during an appointment and let you know whether I think it's viable for you to continue with the course. Most of the time it is, but other times, it's better to avoid having a WF on your transcript. So this is the schedule. I still have to fill out some of the things on this right-hand side here. I will have descriptions of these sections, but this is the general schedule. So like the first exam is going to be on February 4th, a little less than a month from now. We'll have these wellness days kind of scattered out throughout the semester instead of a spring break. And the final exam is going to be on May 4th. Okay, that was a lot of information. Let me pause again and see if everybody's still with me, and ask if there's any questions about anything that I didn't include on the syllabus or anything that I did include and passed over, or anything that I talked about that anyone's confused about in any way. Sweet, thumbs up. I like it. Anyone else have questions on anything? Okay, seems like no questions. So I'm going to open up the first lecture. We've only got about 10 minutes here, so I'll just do a little bit here. But here's how we're going to start. I guess we're going to start by talking about the one thing that everybody knows about, which is numbers. So let's talk about values and what values are. Well, a value is just a number. Okay, that's what I mean when I mean a value. So for example, 7 or -3. Or we have some funny numbers like pi, which is 3.14159 ... And there's another important number which has a funny symbol instead of a decimal expansion. Does anybody know what the other number besides pi is that's really funky? That's right, E. E is the other number that's really funky. And it's something like 2.7. I don't remember as many decimals after that one. E, okay, that's another important one that we're going to be talking about this semester. So pi is going to be really important when we talk about the unit circle. We're going to talk about sine and cosine and tangent and all these types of angles, and we'll be measuring angles with degrees and radians, and we'll be transferring between the two of them. So that's when that one's going to show up. And E is going to show up when we're talking about exponential functions. Okay, so exponential growth, such as the growth in cases of a virus in a population, or such as the growth of money in your bank account. We're going to talk about interest and all those sorts of fun things that are very applicable to real life. Exponential growth is all over the place. So we're going to talk about some of those numbers. And one thing that I want to really emphasize right at the start is the difference between a value and a variable, okay? A variable is not a value, but it is a placeholder for a number and can take different values. I'll just end that sentence right there. Can take different values. So examples, we might have X or Y. Sometimes we use T. Sometimes we use the Greek letter alpha. Or other alphabetical letters or Greek alphabet letters. Okay, and so a variable is really, I like to think of a variable as being like a bucket. Okay, so we've got our X bucket here, and it might contain the number 7 at one time, and then sometime later, we assign X the value of 3 instead. Okay, and the variable here is sort of like the bucket, and at any given time, the bucket could be filled with any sort of number. And we might have specific rules on which numbers can go in which bucket. Okay, so I might say that something like the following. I might say something like 2 is less than X is less than 10. What that means is if I have the X bucket, okay, the only values that X can take are values which are larger than 2 and less than 10. Okay, so I could put something like 3.9 in there. That's fine. What's not fine is X equals 0. That's not okay. Okay, so this is just a way that we write rules for what values a variable can take. Okay, what values a variable can take. Okay, now remember, if we have 2 is, let me draw your attention to the fact that this right here is a strictly less than sign. It's not a less than or equal to sign. So we can't put the number 2 in the X bucket. Okay, this is not okay. We also can't put the number 10 in the X bucket. Okay, so that's because we have these signs here. If we drew a little equal to sign there, then that would be okay. but we don't have those less than or equal to signs, we just have less than signs. So that's how we do it. The other kind of important way we have of expressing this is using interval notation. So we might write something along the lines of x lies in ... And what we want to write now is a description of the subset of the real numbers, which is an interval, and x lies in that interval. So the interval should go from 2 to 10. So if we were to draw the real line here, we'd put 2 and 10, and we'd say, okay, x can be anything in this middle section, and it can't be anything anywhere else. The way we write this as an interval is just to write 2, 10. And what I should do now is place something on the side here, and it should either be parentheses like this, or it should be brackets like this. Does anybody remember which one we should use? Okay, I'm getting different answers, brackets and parentheses. Let's see here. So we've got the brackets or the parentheses. They're going to correspond, if you remember, they're going to correspond to this less than sign. Okay, it's going to be either the less than sign is going to I shouldn't use red here. No, we want green. The less than sign is going to correspond to a bracket or a parentheses. A less than or equal to sign is going to correspond to a bracket. Likewise, a greater than or equal to sign will correspond to a bracket, and a greater than sign will correspond to a parentheses. Okay, so we should use the green ones here. And I might have confused some folks by putting this red stuff on the outside and the green stuff on the inside on the number line. But this is the one that we should use, and we should use a parentheses because we have less than. What this means when we have this parentheses here is we don't include endpoints. Okay. If we had something like 3 is less than or equal to x is less than 5, we might say x lies in the interval 3, and we're going to include 3 this time because we have this less than or equal to sign here. And then we'll put comma 5, and we'll use a parentheses this time because we have just a less than sign. Okay. Let's do one more practice. We'll do one that's totally closed. We can also have negative numbers or funny numbers in these intervals too. Let's do one with some funny numbers. We'll do x is greater than or equal to -3, and x is less than or equal to 0. Okay. Now, I don't want anyone to be confused by this new way that we're writing it. Suddenly, we're not writing it with 1 on the left and then x in the middle and then 1 on the right. But the information is the same. We said x is greater than or equal to -3 and x is less than or equal to 0. So if we wanted to, we could go ahead and combine those. The upshot from that would be that we'd put x in the middle and we say that it's greater than or equal to -3 and it is less than or equal to 0. So now it's in a more familiar shape. And now we can go ahead and just apply this rule here. We know we have less than or equal to signs here, so we could use brackets. So this one, we would say x lies in the interval -3, 0. Okay, that's it for today. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about today, then great. I recommend that you stay after class. And I'll have my office hour from now until 10:30. So if you want to hang out, introduce yourself, or ask any questions about, I don't know, whatever questions you may have, feel free to stay. Otherwise, you're free to go, and I'll see you tomorrow. Yep, no problem. Thanks, you too. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here.